So today we're going to make chicken curry, Indian style. I have in here marinated chicken drumsticks, which I skinned, and I've added a ginger garlic paste, just about a teaspoon of ginger garlic paste. There are about 5 or 6 drumsticks in there. So I took a teaspoon of ginger garlic paste, and I also actually sprinkled the juice of half a lemon. I've never done that before, so I'm not really sure how that's going to work out, but I'm going to talk about this as if there was no lemon, and I just threw that in there, so I'll let you know after I eat it what it tastes like. So I'm turning on the stove, and in here, in my pressure cooker, I have extra light, or the light olive oil that I've added, probably about a tablespoon or a tablespoon and a half worth. And then from my spice box right here, I'm going to take the cumin seeds, and I would say this is about half a teaspoon worth, and sprinkle it into the oil as it warms. We're going to get the oil nice and hot, not to the point where it's smoking, because we don't want the cumin seeds to burn, and they will if it's too hot. And then we're going to add our diced onion, which I have right here. This is the onion that's been diced pretty fine. I did about 2 small to medium sized onions, and let's see. So if you add a couple of onions and they don't spatter and start making noises, then obviously your oil is not hot enough. So I'm going to wait for a bit or so before I add that in. Get my wooden spoon ready. Kind of move it around. Okay, I start to hear the onions spattering in there, so my onions can go in now. Perfect. That's exactly what you want to hear. And that tells you that the oil is at the right temperature. I have the stove on high, and you kind of can't really walk away from the onions at this point, because we don't want them to burn. We want them to get an evenly golden brown texture, or color rather, before we do our next step. Okay, so the onions are nice golden brown. I'm happy with this color. I'm a little impatient too sometimes, so I just have to remind myself that this makes all the difference to the color of your curry and of your flavors. Well, doesn't make a difference to the color of your flavors, but it makes a difference to both color and flavor. And you want to make sure that you take the time to really let these onions brown well. At this point now, I'm going to, I don't need to add the ginger garlic paste, which I normally would, because I've added that right to the chicken to marinate overnight, by the way. They've been sitting in that overnight in a covered container. Now I'm adding tomato sauce. Most traditional Indian cooks will actually want to use whole diced tomatoes, like, fresh tomatoes. I'm lazy, a busy mom, and a busy professional, and an entrepreneur, so it's easier for me to just use the tomatoes, and quite frankly, I don't see the difference. But anyway, so I've added the tomatoes. Now I'm going to go to my spices. I am going to add salt, and of course you can always adjust this later, so we don't want to overdo it. I'm going to be generous with the turmeric, and I have about a half teaspoon worth over here. And when I say teaspoon, I'm talking about a measure teaspoon. I'm going to go to the coriander powder, and if you've watched my previous video about the dal, then you know how I feel. Coriander powder is an amazing flavor adder to your Indian cuisine, so be generous with it. I put 2 heaping spoonfuls. I would say that would be 2 heaping teaspoons, and I'm going to do a little bit less heaping. So 2.5 teaspoons, I would say, of coriander powder is what I've added into this. And I'm mixing it nicely. Even at this point, even though it's just tomatoes and onions and your seasoning, you should be able to put your head over the pot and really like the fragrance. If you don't like what you're smelling, then you're not on the right track. I'm going to add a little bit more chili powder to this one, because chicken curry bland is just no fun. So we're going to do that. Because it's a stainless steel pot, if you're not careful, then you will have things sticking to the bottom. So you kind of want to add a little bit of water so that that doesn't happen. You also don't want to lose all of this yummy flavor to the pot. So kind of just, you know, bring it all together, let it mix well. Look at that beautiful color. That's going to be the color of the curry at the end of this. So, mixing this well, I'm going to add some garam masala here. Now the last time we did this, I added garam masala after the pressure cooker, but here I'm going to actually add it now to this, and I'm doing probably a flat teaspoon worth in here, because I really want these flavors to blend well. And you can keep stirring this and adding a little bit of water at a time, not too much. You don't want to get it too dilute. You don't want it to lose its concentrated flavor. You can look at this as basically your base. Well, this is your base. And this has to be fairly concentrated because we are going to have to add water to cook in the pressure cooker. So you don't want to overdo adding water at this point. You want it to be pasty, basically. Okay, so I just added the chicken to the pan. And you kind of want to be careful not to, you know, you want to mix the flavors together, but you also don't want to bruise up your chicken. So just be careful when you're moving this around. This is sort of hard to handle an iDevice in one hand and film, but anyway. So kind of moving it around so that you get the spices and the seasoning nicely on all the chicken. And then we're going to add some water. I just used the pan, the dish that I had the chicken marinating in. I just added water to that so that all the flavors of the chicken can, you know, be used in this. And you don't immerse the chicken with water. We don't want to do that because we don't want to have such a thick gravy. I'm kind of moving this around as best I can without bruising the chicken too much or without breaking up the pieces of chicken, but I don't want the seasoning or the base to be lumpy. I want it to mix well with the water. And I think I will add some more water because under pressure this will the water will absorb. So we have the chicken in there now. It's nicely, I'm actually let it simmer just a few minutes, just like this, to get all the seasoning and the water all blended together. And now I'm going to grab my lid and lock it up and bring it up to high. Oop. And let this get under pressure. Okay, so now this is whistling. It's under pressure. So now we're going to reduce the temperature, heat, the flame to between low and 2, just to keep the whistling going. And we're going to set the timer this time for about 10 minutes. That's all it takes to cook your chicken. Just 10 minutes in this amazing pressure cooker. Okay, so my timer's gone off. I'm going to turn off the stove, release the pressure, and then as soon as this is done, we'll open up the lid to see what it looks like. Let's open this up now. So unlock it right there. Okay, so obviously the chicken is fully cooked because it's falling off the bone, but it's very liquidy. You can see this is definitely not a gravy. It's not going to adhere to your rice or anything else you want to eat it with. So we want to now put the stove back on low. I would do it between, this would be between simmer and low, basically. So I'm going to put it really low because I don't want to cook the chicken too much more because it's just going to fall off the bone. Of course, you can do this with any kind of chicken. I just happen to have drumsticks in the house because we made tandoori chicken a little while ago. You can do this really well with thighs. You could do it with breast, but it probably won't be very flavorful because not a lot of fat for the flavors to adhere to. So we're going to let this simmer. I would say we want to check on it every 5 minutes or so. So I'm going to set a timer for 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and see what it looks like. Okay, so that's about 12 to 15 minutes of simmering. And you can see that the gravy has thickened a little bit. It's no longer as watery as it was. It still is, but that's good. We want to be able to eat it over white rice or with a piece of roti, which is the Indian flatbread, which is absolutely delicious and a staple in all Indian households as well. So I'm going to just turn the stove off. I'm pretty happy. It doesn't look as pretty. My food, especially my chicken, tends to do that because I always want to err on the side of caution in terms of cooking the chicken more rather than less. So I think I let the pressure cooker go for about 10 minutes. Probably 8 minutes would have done just fine. And then you could simmer it and then it won't fall apart that way. So if you're doing this for a dinner party, you want it to look prettier than it does. But believe me when I tell you, it's going to taste absolutely And the lemon juice actually worked. I think that's one of the reasons why the chicken cooked that quickly too, because the lemon juice acted like a tenderizer. So most definitely I'll adjust the cooking times the next time I try this. But it's delicious. Happy eating!